Imagine trekking through vast rivers, dangerous jungles, and uncharted deserts, risking your life for discovery. Now imagine doing all that, only for your name to vanish from history, simply because you were a woman. That's the forgotten story of Margaret, one of the early 1900s explorers who dared to go where few men would, but whose legacy was stolen. Welcome back to Silent Scars, where we uncover the hidden stories of racism, sexism, and injustice that history tried to erase. Today, we're revisiting the story of a remarkable woman, Margaret, a European explorer who traveled deep into Africa at a time when exploration was considered the ultimate test of courage. But while male explorers were hailed as heroes, Margaret's work was dismissed, mocked, and in some cases, outright stolen. The early 20th century was an age of exploration. For Europeans, much of Africa was still described as uncharted territory. Explorers who returned with maps, artifacts, or cultural accounts often became celebrities, their names immortalized in books and museums. But Margaret's journey began not with fanfare, but with ridicule. When she first applied for funding, sponsors told her plainly, "Exploration is a man's work. Women don't belong in the wilderness." Newspapers mocked her before she even set out, printing caricatures of her wearing long dresses while chopping through the jungle with a machete. Still, she refused to let sexism define her limits. With limited resources, she set out anyway. Over the next several years, Margaret trekked across thousands of miles of challenging terrain. She mapped rivers with painstaking accuracy, documented plant and animal species, and recorded detailed accounts of local cultures, information that would later prove invaluable to researchers. Interestingly, while her European peers laughed at her, many African communities she encountered respected her persistence. They saw her endurance, her willingness to learn local customs, and her refusal to quit when faced with fever, storms, or hostile wildlife. Yet when she sent her findings home, the reception couldn't have been more different. Scholars back in Europe dismissed her notes as unreliable. Worse, some of her reports and maps were later republished under the names of male explorers who hadn't even been there. Her hard work literally became their legacy. One particular incident stands out. During one expedition, a male explorer fell gravely ill with malaria. While others panicked, Margaret took command. She organized supplies, navigated through treacherous terrain, and led the entire team to safety. But when the story was told back in Europe, the man's bravery was praised. His suffering was portrayed as proof of his heroism. Margaret, she was barely mentioned. This was the pattern of her life. Every time she proved herself, her achievements were either ignored, twisted, or credited to men. It wasn't her skill that was questioned, it was her gender. Margaret's struggle wasn't unique. History is filled with women who explored, discovered, and innovated, only to have men take the credit. Women explorers of the era were often treated as curiosities, like sideshow attractions, rather than professionals. Think about it. How many famous male explorers do you know from history books? Now, how many women? The imbalance is no accident. It's a product of sexism that didn't just silence women in the moment. It rewrote the record of history itself. And so, when textbooks were written, when museum plaques were carved, Margaret's name was missing. She had endured all the same dangers: wild animals, disease, grueling months of isolation. But unlike her male counterparts, she wasn't celebrated, she was erased. Margaret's story forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. How many women like her shaped the world we know today, only for their names to be buried? How many discoveries were credited to the wrong people, not because of mistakes, but because of systemic sexism? Margaret proved something that should have been obvious all along. Courage, intelligence, and resilience are not limited by gender. She endured hardships that would break most people, and she left behind a body of work that deserved recognition. And yet, while male explorers' names live on in history books and even on maps, Margaret faded into obscurity. Her story is a reminder that history isn't neutral. It's shaped by those who hold the pen, and too often that pen has been controlled by men. So when we look back at the past, we must ask ourselves, how many women were erased? And more importantly, can we ever truly rewrite history to give them their rightful place? This was Silent Scars, where we shine a light on the stories history tried to forget. If Margaret's story moved you, share this video. Because the more we talk about women like her, the harder it becomes for history to erase them again. What do you think? Can history ever truly be rewritten? Or will women like Margaret always remain shadows in the margins? Let us know in the comments below.